This is AIM Agenda. With me now, Tim Wilson, Liberal MP, and Labor's Peter Khalil. Gentlemen, good morning to you both. Tim, first of all, the pitch to battlers and trying to isolate regions that have not done well in the wake of the mining boom. Give us a sense of what this is all about in your view.
Well, what it's about is making sure we take Australians forward together. We know full well that there's been, we've gone through one stage of the mining boom around the investment phase, and now it's looking at how we can secure jobs for everybody in Australia, regardless of where you're located. It's a pretty simple proposition. What do we need to do to make sure that rural and regional economies are pumping, providing the jobs, the economic security for people, so that they can then go on and build healthy and productive lives and secure lives for their families. And we want the Productivity Commission to look at all avenues to secure that future for Australians, and nothing, is sort of off the table. We have to make sure that where there are jobs for Australians, they're matched against opportunities.
Yeah, this makes sense, doesn't it, Peter Khalil, particularly in the context of what we've seen internationally in recent times, the view that the disconnected communities have, well, spoken in terms of Brexit, also in terms of that groundswell of support across the Rust Belt and elsewhere in the United States for Trump.
Yes, Kieran, that's true. But this is another demonstration of how out of touch Malcolm Turnbull and Scott Morrison are. Rather than ScoMo, he's really slow-mo here. I mean, another inquiry, an inquest to tell us what we know, which is that people are suffering, they are struggling. Bill Shorten's been out to all of the regions. We're talking about local jobs and putting local jobs first, about strengthening labour market testing so that Australian jobs come first before 457s. And this is something that we've been talking about for a long time, and now we're just seeing right now Scott Morrison talking about an inquiry with the Productivity Commission. Instead of that, he should be actually adopting some of Labor's policies.
Tim Wilson, your thoughts on that?
Well, firstly, Peter Khalil is up there talking about how Labor's putting local jobs first. It's not how they looked at it when they were dealing with issues like the backpackers tax, where they wanted to give preferential arrangements for foreigners to local workers. But in the end, we have to look at what we need to do to substantially move all Australians forward together, and we do that by looking comprehensively at the issues that are affecting regional and rural economies and what can be done, particularly to attract investment into those communities into the future. Yeah. That's what drove the mining boom, investment into those communities.
I'm sorry.
We need to be able to continue that to make sure that we can secure the future of this country and build its future.
This is a great spin just before Christmas, Kieran. If the Libs and the Coalition really cared about Australians and Australian jobs, they would be tightening labour market testing. They wouldn't be having a $50 billion tax giveaway for big business and banks, which $7.4 billion would go to the big banks. Where's the stimulus? I mean, that's not going to be spent at the local shops. I can tell you that now.
Peter
they would
Khalil,
look at...
But is Labor being hypocritical here, given when your leader was in office, it was, I think, from memory, rates of 457s were higher?
Well, you know the answer to that, Kieran, and so does Tim. The labour market testing was removed by the Howard government, which caused the increase in the numbers. And we actually put, and Bill put things into place. Bill put things into place that actually has slowed it down. And we're committed to making sure that we tighten labour market testing so that Australian jobs come first, local jobs come first. And we're talking about Australians in the regions. We're talking about Australians in urban centres as well. And that's the important element here.
There was a
the risk here, though, Peter. Tim, we'll get back to you in a moment, Tim. But first, Peter, on Labor's position when it comes to the AAA rating, because I know that Jim Chalmers yesterday, and you this morning as well, repeating this line about the company tax cuts. This is government policy. They took it to the election. They won the election. Is it now important that Labor, as we head into the new year, if we get through the mid-year budget update with the AAA rating intact, that in the lead up to the May budget, that all sides, the major parties, work together to rein in the unproductive debt, as the Treasurer puts it?
Well, Scott Morrison should probably call up Chris Bowen and adopt some of the sensible policies that we've put forward, like the negative gearing policy, the capital gains tax discounts or halving those, the superannuation discounts or the concessions there for people who have got over 1.5 million. These will actually add another $32 billion to the bottom line of the budget. You take away the $50 billion tax cuts to companies as well. That's $80 billion to the bottom line. You actually secure the AAA credit rating. But of course, the coalition are too stubborn to do that. That's why, and Tim mentioned the backpacker tax, they ran off and did a deal with the Greens in the last minute because they were too embarrassed and they were all over the place and refused to work with Labor.
Unlike Labor.
Exactly.
No, we were very constructive. That's not true, Kieran. We were committed to a 10.5% rate. We were willing to then move to 13, and off they went with the Greens.
Right.
And by the way, the Greens are running around talking about $100 million for a land care package, and I'm assuming that the Treasurer is going to have to pull out $100 million from another environmental program.
All right, Tim Wilson, I want to ask you just to wrap up, if you can, on this issue, because the challenge is to get the money into the productive infrastructure like the regional spend that the Treasurer, I guess, is flagging in the speech today. You've got to rein in that spending that's already in place, but you've yet to get through those cuts in the Senate. This is a big question mark as we head into 2017, Tim.
I don't think anybody's disputing that, and what we need is some sort of policy coherence, which is precisely why the government is taking a policy package, or has taken a policy package to the Australian people at the election, which is about attracting foreign capital to invest in the future of building of this country. And that's why those company tax cuts are so important. We've currently got Donald Trump over in the United States talking about a 15% company tax, and ours is still at 30%. Where do you think investment capital is going to go? Where it's taxed higher or where it's taxed lower? Then you've got to make sure that you have the right regulatory environment in place to make sure we can create jobs in the community and make sure that they go to the people who need them. This is where I think the public is looking for policy coherence and a clear and articulate vision for the country. Okay. Not, unfortunately, what we're getting today, which is far too much, oh no, but we're Labor and we have our different policies and everybody should just adopt it, as we got from Peter and Bill Shorten.
Tim and Peter, we've got to wrap it up there. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your contribution this year. Merry Christmas, and we'll see you next year.
Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas, Kieran. Have a great year. Cheers.